Are you using kettlebells in your workouts? Well, stop right now if you're doing swings like this. Because these common mistakes could be sabotaging your progress. And today, I'm breaking down the 5 biggest mistakes people are making during kettlebell swings and how to fix them. And if you're over 40 and you want to become strong, fit, and lean without going to the gym twice as fast, then download my free ebook in the first link in the description. Grüezi miteinander, Gregory von Lebe hier. Let's jump right into the mistakes, with mistake number 1 being using your arms to lift the kettlebell. Arm dominance is always an issue. The kettlebell swing is a hip-dominant movement, not an arm-dominant upper body exercise. So instead of lifting with your arms, focus on generating power from your hips. Your arms should act like hooks while your hips do the heavy lifting. When we teach the swing, we always tell our clients to think about one of the most powerful cues to help you generate power from the hips, and that is pushing your feet into the floor. And as you do this, imagine you're squashing fruit below your feet every time you hip thrust the kettlebell up to chest level. Mistake number 2, squatting instead of hinging. With this mistake, you're turning the kettlebell swing into a squat. While this is not inherently wrong, it can be an issue for people who are just getting started. A kettlebell swing is a hinge movement, not a squat movement. So here's how to fix it. Instead of bending your knees too much, think of pushing your hips back and letting them drive the movement. There's another powerful cue that we use to teach the kettlebell swing to our clients if they're squatting too low. You place a little bottle between your legs, and every time you swing the kettlebell, you want to avoid hitting the bottle. And if you are, this is an indication that you're swinging too low. Mistake number 3, failing to see and apply the difference between the 2 most dominant swing styles. This is a mistake that can not only cripple your progress, it can also cause analysis paralysis. You see, if you see these 2 different swing styles, you might think that one is the right one and the other one's the wrong one. This is not the case. To help you get rid of this type of paralysis, let me backtrack a little bit. There's 2 types of dominant swing techniques that you can use. Number 1 being the deadlift style, also referred to as hard style. This is where you just hinge the hips, bend the knees a little bit, similar to a deadlift, and then you hip thrust the kettlebell up to chest level. The second being the Russian pendulum. This is where you engage in the so-called double bent knee. You catch the kettlebell as it drops with a bent knee, and as the kettlebell enters the backswing, you fully extend the legs. And as you push the kettlebell back, you bend the knees again and stand up tall, as you finish the movement when you hip thrust the kettlebell up to chest level as well. It sounds a little bit complicated if we describe it from the technical perspective. However, if you put both styles next to each other, you can see the clear difference. My recommendation is to get started with the deadlift style or the hard style, then slowly and gradually move into the double bent knee approach. Mistake number 4, going too heavy too soon. While a heavyweight can be a great teacher in and all by itself, we have to learn the mechanics first. When it comes to injury, I believe in the load exceeds capacity model. If you're swinging a light kettlebell as you're learning the fundamentals, I don't think that you can get hurt even if you do it completely wrong. That being said, you have to understand how to move the kettlebell properly if you want to enjoy it and move heavier weights to get a greater stimulus. The issue with the heavy weight, however, on the other side is that you don't want to go too heavy once you get started, because the load exceeds capacity model states that if you swing a kettlebell that's too heavy, that equals the load, then chances are you are exceeding your body's capacity to handle that load, which can lead to injury. And just in case if you're wondering what kind of kettlebell I'm using, it's the Pro Kettlebell by my friend Nikolai Puchlov, proudly made in the USA. Check the link in the description to get your Pro Kettlebell right now. And don't forget to use our code LEBE to get 10% off your next purchase. Mistake number 5, lack of full extension, also known as glute amnesia. This mistake closely correlates with mistake number 1, with the issue being right now that instead of using your arms too much, you don't engage your glutes enough. If you're not extending your hips fully at the top, which means pushing your feet into the floor, squeezing the butt cheeks, standing up tall, and squashing the fruit that's below your feet while pulling up your kneecaps, you're not getting the most out of the movement. If you belong to the white-collar working class, you sit on your butt all day. Possible implications of sitting all day long might mean that you have lost touch and connection with your glutes. These are your strongest muscles in your body. And once you get started with the swing, you are forced to reignite the connection to your hips. And this might cause a little bit of an issue at first. Because you're not aware of how to contract your glutes because you have glute amnesia, your swing looks a little bit off. Make sure you're fully extending your hips and standing up tall before letting the kettlebell fall back down. Bonus mistake, swinging the kettlebell far out and wide. When you're using the biggest muscles of your body to catapult a kettlebell from the backswing into the top swing, don't make the mistake of thinking that you're pushing the kettlebell alongside a horizontal line, which means the kettlebell doesn't fly away from you in a straight line. You rather want to think about hip thrusting the kettlebell in a vertical line, which means in an upward motion. And if you swing correctly, it is clearly demonstrated by letting the kettlebell loose that the kettlebell doesn't fly away from you, but it flies upwards. This is a very important cue for you to remember, especially as you move into the clean and the snatch afterwards. So there you have it, 5 mistakes that could be holding back your progress with the kettlebell swing. Focus on proper form, and I guarantee you'll see better results in no time. Here's the next thing that you have to do. Clean and press the like and subscribe button, share with a friend who's also interested in kettlebells, and if you made it this far, download my free ebook in the first link in the description called the Kettlebell Code. If you're over 40, 50, or 60, you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to take care of your fitness, this is where the kettlebell comes in. And I want to make sure you have a head start when you pick up the kettlebell for a spin. That's why I have that ebook for you that you can download in the first link in the description. It's 100%